Converted Man here. I've got Dallas Wade. We're jumping into the deep end. Or no, wait, we're waiting. So we're not. If we jump in, it will hurt our ankle. Yeah. All right, so I'm sure everyone's already made several jokes about that. Have you interacted with Dry Apologists? That would be a good crossover. Wade and Dry and is this apologist on YouTube that I've interacted with called a dry apologist.
No, I've not heard of him.
Yeah, so yeah, but I've been sub to you for a while and finally got around to doing this thing and like, what are we going to talk about? We want to talk about all the skeptical things. Why are we so jaded? Why do we do what we do? You've been doing YouTube for a while. I've been, we've both been at this game a while, I think. What got you started in this insanity? Why are you a skeptic online?
Right, yeah. So there's two ways to answer more how you phrased it first, like how I got started on YouTube. I've actually been on YouTube since 2010, but yeah, this channel I've got now, I started in 2017. I remember I was already non-religious. I was already considered myself an atheist, but sometime in 2017, I remember seeing on Facebook the Louis Giglio laminin video, and I don't know if you've seen that or not, but there's the laminin. It's the protein molecule that holds something together in the human body, and it's shaped kind of like a cross.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that. And they were making this big deal of how it was shaped like the cross, and yeah, it's not really like, if you look at it one way it does, but then like it will move and then it doesn't. Like,
it's usually not. It's usually not like a perfect little crucifix. It's usually kind of wibbly wobbly. But yeah, I remember just being so astounded at how just comedic that video was. It is so silly, and I wrote this long Facebook post about like, okay, guys, this is like the silliest argument. I wasn't outspoken like against religion or any sort of Christian apologists or anything like that. I was pretty closed. Like, I kept my mouth shut, but I saw that and I just had to write a post about it. So it was the first time I ever opened up about not being religious publicly. And my post was pretty long. And I remember just being extremely passionate about that Louis Giglio video. And I was like, you know what? I could make this into a YouTube video. And so I did. Like, literally what I wrote was a huge part of my video script. I remember at the time I was watching I had just started watching Armored Skeptic, and I'm not going to say anything about how I feel about him right now, but at that time I was watching Armored Skeptic and I liked his little cartoon animations, and I was like, maybe I could do something like that, which I didn't do in my first video. But
Armored Skeptic, he was on my he and I did a thing ages and ages ago, and he actually made my original avatar, and
seriously,
back in the day, and he was a great guy, and then he got famous, and more power to him, and then, that's all I got to say. I mean, I'm not gonna, like you, I'm not gonna say more, but he made this avatar for me, and that was, it was really nice, and things happen.
That's
leave it at that.
Fascinating. That's fascinating. Yeah, wow. I did not know you had interacted with him. I actually don't know anybody that's ever talked about interacting with him.
Yeah, it was, it was years ago. I did. He and I was like, hey, can we do a thing? He's like, yeah, sure. And so had this little like thing I wrote out for him to do or say or whatever. And so I appear in his video. We're covering the same video.
Wait, so there's a video on his channel that has you in it?
Should be. I mean, unless I don't know. I don't think he would have deleted it, but as far as I know, it's still there. I know that his is on mine. I have a playlist of videos I'm in, and so it's on. Let's see. Where are you? Atheism is silly pants. So that one's from Armored Skeptic, and I'm in that one.
Dang.
And then my video of that, his is like 30 minutes long. You know, it's the same video. We did the same video. We covered the same video.
Yeah.
Mine's like an hour long.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had to, you know, because the style is totally different. You know, he's, you know, I guess you could say trying to entertain to some, you know, and I'm trying to analyze the arguments and say why all the fallacies are there and what they mean, and you know, here's how to fix it, and you know, and so mine tend to go on longer. You know, but yeah, you know, I think that, you know, my view has always been that the big YouTubers in atheism, so to speak, you know, that they can help the smaller channels, you know, get some traction. And
yeah, I mean, that's really with any YouTube community.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a lot of that going on.
Yeah. But then they, you know, sometimes what can happen with anybody, I mean, it can happen to, you know, no matter what your alignment is, that you get so big that becomes your whole thing, that, you know, it's more about the job than, you know.
Yeah.
You can have both. Like, I mean, you know, you have like Dark Matter, who's got both. He's got good quality content and also, you know, a message that he hasn't, you know, veered off of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, then there's others who go a different way, and, you know, it's room enough for everybody. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Dark Matter, he's one of the first people I watched too. I liked the people that presented their stuff, you know, entertaining, in an entertaining way. Like, I liked Dark Matter's cartoons, and I liked Armored Skeptic's cartoons. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I planned on doing, because I can actually animate pretty decently in After Effects, but it's very time consuming. And then things worked out where actually people don't mind watching my face, so that's a little bit easier to do.
Yeah, it doesn't take as much time to animate your face.
Right. Yeah. It takes a little bit of effort, but yeah, I never thought I would be sitting in front of a camera talking. That's one of the wildest twists in my life.
And you have interacted with a number of atheists, skeptics, agnostics, and theists as well. And if I'm not wrong, it seems more like a kind of conversational approach you have than I kind of go more at it like a debate. Like, everything's a debate to me. I'm like, you know.
Yeah, no, I really like more of a conversational approach. Like, I'm right now, I think I probably interact with some Christian YouTubers more than I do with atheist YouTubers. And it's because I want people to know that I'm not out to get you. I'm willing to sit down and talk. You know, we can be civilized human beings about this. You know, I'm not out to metaphorically cut your throat, you know, rip your faith out or anything. You know, I just want to talk.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I don't think there's enough of that in the big conversation, you know, over religion and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think for me it depends on, you know, who they are and what their claim was. Like, because I've gotten hopefully better with it, but some people I'll just really go hard at because of their claim is so, like, you know.
Oh yeah,
and I'll just be like, you know, I'm talking over them, whatever. I'm not giving them the room to move. And other people, I'm like more laid back with, you know, I'll let them have their say or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It just depends. I guess the apologists I'm usually harder on than the non, because they kind of have a, you know, it's weird. I don't know if you've noticed this, but with apologists, it's like they pretend to have evidence, which they don't have, because you wouldn't really need the type of apologetics that we have if there was evidence. So by
evidence, they have evidence. They don't have proof.
Well, yeah. Well, by evidence, they usually mean broken arguments that have been, you know, shown to be broken.
No, I mean, yeah. Obviously, I don't find any of their evidence to be compelling or, you know, convincing. But I mean, they do have evidence, and that's
Yeah, I guess it depends. Well, what do you mean by evidence? I suppose that's always one of those tricky ones because of natural language. We might
right. I
mean,
mean, it depends on how you're referring to it. But like, if I tell you that, you know, I just was abducted by an alien, you know, like 35 minutes ago, that's evidence, you know, like even an eyewitness claim is evidence. It's not, it doesn't mean that it's proof, you know, but I am presenting evidence, you know.
Yeah. See, usually I always mean just like one thing by it. I always mean,
I know.
yeah.
I've been corrected on that.
No. I mean, I'm not. Hey, look, you know, it's you know, you do you. You know,
No, I'm not gonna nitpick your language.
No, yeah.
I just every time I hear evidence, so I'm like, better be careful with that one.
Yeah, exactly.
I've said it before, and people are like, oh no, Christians do have evidence, and I have to admit that. Okay, yeah, they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I say, well, you know, claims they have, you know, what do you know, it's like again where you have to figure out what they mean by evidence. What is it? What you know, because when I say it or when I think about it, it's like, well, I'm talking about empirical evidence. So usually when I do that, I usually just say empirical evidence because I'm like, well, I got to clarify because, you know, even though in my brain, it's like, no, that's what I meant. It's like, no, I got to be precise.
Right. No, I do get what you're saying, for sure. And I'm just some dumb hick from Alabama.
Well, you know, no, I mean, I don't know that you're dumb. I mean, certainly you are, you know, maybe you're dumb about certain things, but not everything. You know, that doesn't negate your argument.
Yeah, but I'm constantly playing catch up with all of these philosophical terms and, you know, this more complicated language than what, you know, I'm used to hearing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I mean, what I gather is you're very much the any man sort of approach, which is wonderful because it's, you know, like I said, everything is needed. I think that one of these approaches is going to work. Who knows what, but
and yeah, I think that's something I learned along the way too. Because starting out, I tried to speak with, you know, the widest array of vernacular, you know, that I knew. I tried to present arguments and things in the most sophisticated, complex way that I knew how, you know, just to try to be, you know, to try to approach it properly. I tried to be as technical as I could with things, but I realized that I mean, I'm not saying it was like way up there, but I was talking over the heads of people that I, you know, live around, and some people would say, you know, I don't really understand what these like logical fallacies are. Just that being one example. They didn't understand some of the language I was using, and it wasn't complicated language, but it was more than I grew up with and they grew up hearing. And so I realized that wasn't really the best approach. I want to approach things in a way that people around where I live are going to be able to understand, you know, even if I have to dumb things down a little bit, you know, that's worth it, you know, because communication is the most important part, you know, like not sounding like some, you know, hyper intellectual, you know,
yeah, well,
which I'm not. I'm more educated than most people I know locally. But I need to speak in a way where the people locally can understand what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't need to.
It makes sense.
You know, I don't need to sound like cosmic skeptic. You know.
Yeah, you're not. So you're actually open in a place that's fairly highly religious. Alabama's pretty religious.
Potentially the most, you know, religious Christian place in the world.
So do a lot of people know you like around your town, around your area, and they know that you're one of them? And so what's that? And that's a whole story there. What's that like? I mean, is that
I've
run the heathen out of town.
Yeah, I've burned a lot of bridges for sure. A lot of people don't like me, but I've actually gained more respect than I expected. But no, I mean, I definitely get looks like when I go out in town and stuff. I mean, I know probably a third of the population, literally. in the city that I live in. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm always seeing people that I'm either somewhat related to or I know. And, I get a lot of glares and things like that. Everybody knows that I'm outspoken, atheist and stuff. Because I share my videos on Facebook. That's what I did first anyway, was I uploaded my videos to YouTube, but then I shared them to Facebook. So, everybody knows how I feel about things.
Were you a believer of any stripe originally and then deconverted, or?
Yeah, I was a very devout Christian. Church of Christ, actually.
Wow. Yes.
Are you familiar with the Church of Christ?
Yes.
Yeah, so like
so I got questions to ask about that, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so like my dad, he was a preacher, my grandpa was a preacher. 3 out of my 4 uncles are preachers. My brother-in-law is a preacher. So, that was kind of the environment that I grew up in. I was planning on being a preacher as well, but yeah, so that was what I grew up in, extremely conservative fundamentalist Christianity. That's how I grew up.
Wow. And so what happened?
I was studying to be a preacher. One thing I realized, right? Like I realized that I needed to be a preacher, which that's what was taught to me. I didn't need to just understand the Bible myself. I also had to spread, the gospel with non-believers and incorrect believers. I had to spread the gospel, not just know it. But I realized that, I couldn't just show non-believers the Bible and be like, hey, this is the Bible, you need to believe it. I needed to be able to prove to them that the Bible was true. And I realized I didn't know how to do that, because I always just had faith that it was true. I always assumed that there was, evidence and proof and arguments to defend it. I assumed it was all there because I had heard apologetics, but I was never really interested in apologetics because why did I need to know, how to understand that the Bible's true when I already believe it? But I realized, when I was about 17, 18, I actually do need to know that. I need to know how to show non-believers that the Bible's true if I want them to accept it and believe in it. So I started studying Christian apologetics. I guess I started when I was 17, but it was really shocking to me that the arguments seemed contrived and the evidence just seemed a bit not very convincing. I remember I started asking Christian leaders, church leaders and stuff, like, so how do we know that the Bible's true? Like, how do we know? And they would tell me, well, see, we know that there's a God because the universe is really beautiful and complex. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, we know that there's a creator. I was satisfied with those arguments, but I was like, but what about the Bible, right? The Bible. And I started getting into like Kent Hovind and Ken Ham, and I remember being frustrated that all they would talk about is why evolution's not true. Evolution's not true. Evolution's not true. I'm like, oh, okay. So how do we know that the Bible's true? And I just, wherever I looked, I didn't find those answers. It was just always some roundabout way, like, oh, evolution's not true and the universe was intelligently designed. The Bible's true, right? It's like, I don't think you really reached that point. You made a lot of jumps.
I mean, I never really encountered that per se.
Yeah.
I just never really saw evolution as any issue one way or the other. I was like, yeah, sure, it's true, of course, whatever. It doesn't matter. It was like a brief moment of worry that I had to worry about it, and I found like some website. I think it was like "Does God Exist?" and they give
Does
free,
God Exist?
Yeah, and they'll give out books for free if you ask. Like they're trying to sell them too. But
right.
And I got this one. It was like something about evolution or whatever, and I read it, and it's all, now looking back, I wish I still had it because it's just badly, it's the typical sort of lightning hit, and that's how life started, and then whatever, and it's like all these misrepresentations of things that aren't evolution, and then the things about evolution. And I was like, okay, so they're basically saying it's fine if it's true. Okay, so it's fine if it's true, and that was that, and so if I was meant to walk away after reading that book thinking it wasn't true, then that didn't work, because it just seemed like it didn't matter that it was true or not, because it's like it's still God's behind it either way. So I was like, okay. So I don't have to deny science. So that works, But yeah, I mean, it seems like you made the same mistake I did, which is investigating the thing to see if it was true. And
right.
Now we're skeptics, or whatever your preferred label. What do you have a preferred label yourself?
Man, I don't
or do you hate
give
that
a
whole thing?
crap. I don't give a crap anymore. I think probably the most comfortable label for me would be agnostic. Right.
Yeah.
Like I kind of steer away from using the term atheist now. I do use it. I would say according to most people's use of the word atheist, I would probably fit in that category, but I'm fine with not accepting that label. I don't care.
Mm.
I don't actively believe in some kind of deity. So that's enough for some people to call me an atheist, and that's fine.
The content of your argument is more important than the label.
Yeah, and I'd also don't argue against the existence of gods. That's actually not something I've ever done on my channel, though I have been misinterpreted by Christians as that being my mission, but it's not. I don't argue with people over whether or not gods exist. I probably never will have that argument. If you believe that God, some sort of deity exists, or that there must be some sort of deity, that's cool. Awesome. I don't care. As soon as you tell me though that the, homosexuality is an abomination, I've got a problem with you there. That's the difference.
I was going to say the way that the person, or what the claim is, changes everything. Like, now I was going to, let's, because I wanted to talk about the church you were part of, because I encountered it once. They had this thing. Now there's different flavors of it, but the one that I had was like you had to be baptized full immersion, and it had to be had to be said in a like I forget if it was the first or the second way that it's said in the Bible, because there's two different ways that they say to do it. And
to be baptized? To be baptized?
Yeah, like one says in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. The other one's just like in the name of Jesus. And it had to be whichever, I forget now, but it was one of those. It couldn't be the other one. It wasn't good enough. So
so the difference with the Church of Christ and some other Christian denominations that do baptism is the Church of Christ does not believe that you are being baptized into the local church, like that congregation. You're not being baptized into the congregation. You are being baptized into the church, you're being baptized into Jesus, right? You're being baptized in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. They say that every time.
Right. That's what it was. Because that's the first one that's in the. I think that their reasoning is because that's the first one said in the Bible, and then later on it says Jesus or something like that. I don't remember.
I've not heard that specifically, but I would assume, if there are two examples of that, and one of them said Jesus and one of them said all three, they're going to go with all three, because the Church of Christ is very careful. If the Bible says, to do something once, well, that's all that matters. Like a lot of people will say, like when they're arguing with the Church of Christ, they'll say, well, several times it says all you have to do is believe, and obey, and you'll be saved, right? So to be saved, you have to do that. And it's like, okay, it says that, but it also says, even if it's a couple examples, it also says in a couple places that you have to be baptized. So it doesn't matter that it said elsewhere that you just have to believe and obey, even if it said once. they have to be baptized, then that's what we're going to do.
Right.
That's how the Church of Christ operates. Which
and the one I went to, it had to be full immersion. Was that the same?
Oh yeah. You have to be fully immersed. Like you can't do the sprinkling. You can't just kind of like be, dunk halfway. You got to freaking be underneath the water completely. Which I was. I was baptized. I was 12 years old.
Yeah, the minister, I think they say minister, if I remember right.
Usually say preacher.
Or they say preacher. Yeah, like that was a whole thing too. Like, no, it's not minister. It's not,
I don't think they have too much of an issue with minister because that's kind of very general, but not pastor, not reverend, not, none of those. It's just a preacher.
Yeah. Anyways, the pastor there, he believed his father had been a Baptist, and so he thought that his father was in hell because he didn't get baptized in the right way. And I'm like,
what they believe.
What? Yeah. I'm like, but I'm like, wait a minute. But he thought he got baptized in the right way. He's like, yeah, but he didn't. I'm like, what? Because he said he said it the wrong way. Like, and I took issue with it. It was like, because I was recently, or somewhat still recently, or recently out of the military than I am now, I suppose. But and I was like, well, what about the people, in the battlefield that get baptized and given last rites? I'm like, yeah, they're screwed. I mean, I was like,
no, I mean that's what they believe. It's very cut and dry. They'll say, sorry, I don't get to make the rules. That's just
I see. I
do be like that.
It was the first time ever encountering that particular thing, and I just come out of I've been to several different types of churches over my life, but I had been going to a Pentecostal church, and my main problem with them was they said you had to speak with the tongues or you didn't have the Holy Spirit, and if you don't have the Holy Spirit, then you're not really saved. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense to me. That doesn't seem fair. And then, then I go to this church and it's like, no, you don't have to do that. But you do have to do this or you're not saved. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I haven't had too many interactions with the Pentecostals, but most denominations just make fun of them and just leave it at that. Like the Church of Christ, they don't believe in speaking in tongues. They don't believe in miracle healings or most things. For the most part, they actually, except for the presupposition that the Bible is the Word of God, they're a very rational kind of denomination. Like they don't believe that, if you have some crazy feeling that's the Holy Spirit, they're like, oh no, you're just, just emotional.
Right.
About anything, I would say, skeptically about people with Holy Spirit powers or, faith healing powers, or if somebody miraculously was healed, about anything, I would say to, rationalize it. The Church of Christ would say the same thing. They'd be like, oh yeah, no, that wasn't a miracle. That was just luck,
Yeah, I don't think I ever found anything about that, because my hang up with them was just the whole, has to be this way. And
they lean really hard on the broad is the way, but narrow is the gate, or whatever, few there are that will enter. They cash in on that one.
Right. And so that was interesting that you came from that, and
I'm thankful. I'm thankful for having that kind of Christian background.
Yeah, really, as opposed to, did you ever attend other types of churches, or?
Yeah, so there was a lot going on, but also when I was studying things, I was also studying the Church of Christ denomination, making sure it was actually the right one, because I took a lot of issues with what you took issue, how harsh they were on others. I was like, I just knew that the Church of Christ didn't really reflect Jesus's attitude. He was very loving, he was very forgiving, very compassionate, and I knew that there was something didn't line up. You got the Church of Christ, who just thinks they're better than everybody else. Everybody else is just hellbound, you know. And then you had Jesus, who is very loving, very accepting, very forgiving. Something didn't line up. So I did start investigating the Church of Christ, and I started attending a Baptist church, which was kind of middle ground. You know, they're not Pentecostal. They're not a crazy, wild denomination. They're just kind of in that middle ground. And I really liked the atmosphere there. The people were very kind, and they were actually active in the community. And I actually went out with them and, you know, fixed up old people's ramps, you know, going to their houses, things like that. And I really liked it. I liked the people there, but I didn't think they looked very hard into the Bible. You know, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, we love Jesus. I was like, that's cool. But I also come from a very fundamental church, and I understand that you have to actually, you know, study to show yourself approved and stuff like that. So I couldn't ever get behind it with the fundamental background that I had. You know, I always knew that there was a conflict with these types of churches. You know,
I mean, there have been churches that could not make up their mind on, you know, if it's by full, you know, or if salvation by grace, or so, you know, as it works, do you need to do anything? Is it full grace? And I mean, those debates were there, and I didn't really become aware of them until I was an adult, per se. I mean, I kind of knew they were there when I was a teenager, but it wasn't interesting. And then as I got older, I saw, oh, man, it's like nobody can agree on what I would say are fundamentals. I mean, you can't. One thing that's interesting, if you know, that I found was you try asking different Christians how to be saved, and if you record their answers, you'll see some similarity, but you'll see a wide differences that actually, you know, matter, like the Pentecostals and the Church of Christ, where, you know, they're saying no, every other Christian but us is screwed, because if you're right, that means and so when I saw that unfairness, and then I said, well, wait a minute, not everybody on earth is Christian. So if this is unfair, you know.
Right. That's kind of the natural path that you go down. You know, you start looking like at the denominations, you know, and then you realize, oh yeah, actually, there's other religions too.
Right. Yeah, it's like 33% of the world. Right. That means everyone else but us 33% are screwed. And if that's not fair, then wait, you know, okay, you know.
That's one of those tipping points. You know, it starts. It's one of the first dominoes usually for a lot of people.
God is presented as fair, but then that's not really true. At least not the God that's actually presented to Christians. You're told it's fair, but then you're like, oh, but it's kind of not really fair, you know. And so it's like, well, which is it? You can't have it, you know.
I know a few Christians that jump through a lot of hoops to try to make that work, and you can. But by the time you do, the Bible, you might as well throw it away, because you've just, you know, come up with your own headcanon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it's I mean, and this is true on any belief, not just God beliefs, but any belief, not just supernatural, but you know, political or any other belief that somebody has, where you can hold to it so tight that it becomes unquestionable. And you know, I always try to remind myself and others, hey, look, we got to question what we hold most dear, because we're still human. We're still susceptible to the same flawed thinking and cognitive dissonance and the rest. It's not, you don't become immune just because you realize, you know, this one thing isn't true. There's so many things out there that we might think are true that aren't true. You know, we got to listen, you know, it's like.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of atheists need to look at, or just ex-Christians or ex-Muslim or whatever. Yeah, just you were skeptical about your religion. Now, why don't you use that same skepticism and apply it to other areas of your life?
Right, because there's so much nuance there. And I watch people, when I was on Facebook, finally got off of that because I couldn't deal with it anymore. And now I'm seeing the same sort of patterns on Twitter where I'll see people that are otherwise very intelligent, very skeptically minded people, and they'll say, you know, this extraordinary thing, usually in reference to politics, and I'm like, no, what? You know, what? Yeah. I agree. I don't like what's going on, but what you're saying isn't true, and you can't. Why are you doing it? It's like, well, that's what I got from it. I'm like, how did you get that from this? It doesn't, you know, it's like, just be, you know, look, I get, you know, being emotional and passionate, but you have to, if you don't leave, you know, and it's hard on Twitter because you only have a limited, you know, scope what you can say, but still, the lack of nuance, if you will, is something that I tend to notice, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it too, because I'm not being nuanced about lack of nuance, you know. So
that's fair.
But you'll always, it's like that thing that you think is a benign idea that you hold. That's the one that's going to get you. You know, that's the one that's going to snag you, and you know, I
was really glad, or I'm glad looking back, that I didn't really have any sort of political opinions. I had just kind of gone along with my parents, I guess, but I never spoke about politics. They voted Republican. My dad, he would vote kind of independent a lot, but most of my family voted Republican. And so I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess like that's the right thing. But, you know, I wasn't outspoken about it. I didn't really have any sort of political opinions. And so I'm glad I did kind of get to go through that spiritual journey and kind of understand that, you know, not everything you grew up believing is true. And so then I've sort of been able to apply that to politics and actually look at them like, okay, I want to look at this from a very objective viewpoint, you know, fortunately I didn't even have any real presuppositions, and that's something I'm still kind of developing is my political stance. You know, I don't really have any firm beliefs because I never did before, and now I'm just kind of trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, I think I found myself in that same sort of thing where growing up it was just you're Republican because you're Christian. It was just like, that's what it was. And I remember this one guy in youth group, he was like, oh no, I'm a Democrat. I was like, why? You know, nobody understood it. Like, how can you be this? You know?
Yeah.
And we teased them about it, but it's like, we never learned anything. We didn't know anything about it. It was just, my friend and I, we loved Rush Limbaugh because the show was like over the top. We loved how, just over the top he was. I mean, we didn't know what the bleep he was talking about, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and so, you know, then of course the pendulum swings left and right. And so I found that, you know, when I took the political test at first, I was really like towards the left. And then now, you know, I took it lately, I was like more towards the center. And I'm like, and who knows how biased the test is, because the test questions have to be, somebody had to formulate that based on their political assumptions. So it's like, goodness knows, you know, and you know, so social matters or politic matters, same thing, I suppose, in some degree, that I've noted, I've seen some of you talking about these matters, and where, you know, we have to, it's like, you feel like you're walking on eggshells more than you do with religion sometimes, where.
That's true. That's very true. That's one reason I don't talk about politics a lot.
Yeah. But I've seen you talk about social issues, though.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about social issues. Like, yeah, I absolutely support, you know, gay rights, trans rights, you know, all that sort of, heck yeah, you know. I'm not going to hesitate to talk about that sort of thing. But, yeah, if we want to talk about socialism and capitalism, I still don't really, you know, that's something I'm still trying to figure out. That's a bit, I mean, I would just go ahead and say that's a little bit over my head.
Yeah, it's over my pay. I don't dive into it really myself.
Yeah, so
per se.
I watch and I read a lot of people argue and have discussions about that, and I don't know where I stand on a lot of that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what I was trying to get at was,
yeah,
it's like, but here's a topic that, people can be and sometimes are very, very passionate about. And
yeah,
it's interesting to note that they aren't applying the same sort of skeptical reasoning, and I've even had that with some more of the philosophical people out there on YouTube that I won't name names, but
yeah.
I was saying, well, we need to know the science for this, whatever it is. Maybe it's not a lot, but whatever we got, that should be presented. And it's like, oh, you're just doing scientism. And I'm like, what? No, I'm just asking for what science we have. And it's like, that's not scientism. And even if it was, but it was that one. It's that, I found that one topic that was like a taboo topic. And, and it's like, okay, well, I'm never going to talk about that again.
Yeah.
Have you stumbled? Oh, okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever stumbled into the hornet's nest and said, "Oh, well, I'll never deal with that again"? Or
no, I've done a pretty decent job at avoiding too much controversy in the atheist skeptic YouTuber world. I think besides my one tweet, which was like a week ago or something, where I don't even remember what it was, something about the atheist community acting religious, and that kind of blew up, and a lot of people were offended by that. But that's like literally the only time I've had any sort of controversy.
No, but it's hard to say community because, like, well, what do you mean by that? But certainly the more organized atheist groups out there can be that way.
There's a football community. There is a Miley Cyrus community.
Yeah.
There's as soon as you have a group of people that are wanting to talk to each other because they have one mutual interest, you have a community, whether you've organized it or not. There is an atheist community.
Yeah.
I'm a part of it. You're a part of it.
Wow. I mean, I don't.
Why are you talking? Why are you talking to me? Why do you know? Why do you know who I am?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I think of it when I think of community. I think of something more structured, I suppose. So it's again with that,
it's a social structure.
Yeah. But it's like we're more like a herd of cats. I've heard it described that way. It's like because it's hard to pin down exactly what, because everybody has their own, like, the only shared trait is we all disbelieve in God and everything else is fair game. Like somebody could hypothetically believe in the devil and still be an atheist. So
but you could say the same thing about the football community, right?
True.
Like the only thing they have in common is that they like football, but one of them might be just a raging socialist, and then someone else, is all for capitalism. The only shared interest is football, but that's all it takes to have a community.
It's a good point. Yeah, and there's that nuance I was complaining about earlier.
Yeah, but see, that's the only time I've stumbled into a hornet's nest, which I don't think I stumbled. I think I walked right into that one. With guns ablazing, but
well, because, well, what I guess we could ask the question of what does it mean to be religious too, like, because that can mean different things to different people as well. Certain things are sacred, or there's ritual and tradition, and so. Yeah, it's like, well, what things are sacred to atheists, broadly speaking?
Oh, yeah. I mean, atheists are obviously, atheism is not a religion. Atheists aren't inherently religious. I think with it, like what I said, is atheists, they're not religious, but they can sometimes emulate practices or characteristics of religious people.
Yeah,
I think would be more
definitely,
accurate way to put it.
We have the brain. We still have the bit of our brain that's there that thinks that there's or could think that there's a God. So it's not like we took that out or something. So
well, not even
just that, but I mean the same sort of patterns that go with that.
And I think it's because a lot of us came from, not all of us, but a lot of us came from a religion too, and so we don't even realize it, and we just start acting in that way,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in group and out group sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, because there's a lot of hostility towards outsiders, but not by everybody, but by a lot of atheists.
Yeah,
and I'm not even saying like atheists, like YouTubers or more outspoken atheists, but just like the herd,
Yeah,
there's a lot. There's.
Well, yeah, I was saying you have to be aware of these things like herd mentality is a thing.
And also putting like leaders, like choosing leaders and putting them on some sort of pedestal, because I don't think it's so much in like the YouTube or atheist world, but in the more mainstream atheist world, you've got like your Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris and people like that, and they're just like blindly defended, by a lot of atheists, because they're the leaders, whether the atheists call them leaders or not. They are oftentimes treated as such, and they are seen as infallible, and I think that's something that atheists kind of need to watch out for, don't start making the same mistakes that religions make. We supposedly left that,
Yeah, and I saw that with I'm trying to remember the Atheist Alliance or whatever it was called, but Michael, I want to say Shimmer or whatever.
The creep that was on David Worley's podcast, or is it something else?
I don't think so, but at any rate, he said, religion is a retarded relic or whatever, and he got in trouble for that. And I'm like, really?
Okay, yeah.
Geez. Come on. So this particular group has decided that, well, they suspended him for without pay for, a month, and it's just like, why? It's,
I don't.
I mean,
know if we want to have this conversation. I would just clarify that I don't think we should use that word. Be conscientious.
Freedom, free to say whatever. I think that's the thing. Is I think that companies, obviously they have a vested interest in protecting their money, or if they're a charity, they have to be careful because they want a good public image. So it makes sense on that level. But I'm like, but who cares? Like, just say, our employee said that, and that doesn't represent what we believe or whatever.
Sure.
And that's the end of that,
he doesn't represent them.
Or whatever. But in this case, he kind of is their like main guy or whatever, I guess. So, but it's weird. But I just get, I'm like, oh, you can't say that word. And what other words can we not say? Just like kind of go that way with it. But maybe I'm too passionate about the ability to say whatever the bleep you want to say without, without the sort of call to arms that I've seen happen too many times. That there's a danger there, and I think people are seeing that now. Finally, that it's like, oh well, you shouldn't say this or you shouldn't say that. Why? You just give that word power. That's all you're doing. So just don't care. If you don't care about the word, then it has no power over you.
I understand why some people have that hold that position. I do think that words do have power, and if they're going to offend a certain group or kind of use them as some punching bag or the butt of a joke, I think we should avoid doing that. But I don't know. We don't have to get into this conversation, and I don't know the full context of that story. I've been seeing people talk about it, and I haven't really been watching. I haven't really been keeping up with YouTube in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, but, it's just like I said, I was random things that come to mind. Obviously, that's what the thing was. I was kind of going on. It's like, here's another thing. It's just because that's how my mind tends to work. Is I think of different different random things. I was like, oh, what about this? Can we unpackage this or whatever?
No.
It's important to know what specifically the topic is per se, so that you can go, and especially if it's something that's might be or could be a hot button thing and all that. It's like, like there was a misunderstanding with me on Twitter. Like the guy thought that I had said something seriously when I'm like, no, I was joking. But I was like, no.
With the world the way it is today, though, it's kind of hard to say something satirically, and
you gotta,
because you can't tell the difference between that and what like people actually believe. I mean,
you gotta add your smiley faces and wink, and you gotta put in parentheses. I'm just kidding or something.
I mean, people think that 5G is mind controlling us.
No,
so, you really can't say anything that's absurd enough for people to know that you're kidding.
Well, the chemtrails protect you from 5G. I mean, and the vaccine is to protect against the chemtrails. There you go. But I'd love to really sit down and talk to one of the flat earth type of person or whatever. I guess I've come close to it with like King James Onlyist or whatever, but they're just kind of more annoying and frustrating to talk to than silly, like what they believe in is just so absurd. It's just like, well, okay.
I've not interacted with the flat earth community at all. One of my uncles, I think he's a flat earther. I remember at one point we had a conversation and he was defending it. I don't know if it was he was playing the devil's advocate. I don't know. I think it was something he was dipping his toes into, though, because he had obviously been reading about it. But he does believe that like we don't actually have spacecrafts in space and we never landed on the moon, and all the footage of people on the space station is fake, and they're actually hanging from cables and stuff like that. I think he may be a flat earther. I'm not sure. But that's the closest I've come to actually talking about flat earth.
The closest I came was there I saw a video and I know a pilot instructor, so the guy had mentioned something about flying, so I was like, I got a person that can talk about this. And so we unpacked what he said in 2 minutes. Took us like an hour to say why it was wrong, because everything he said in that 2 minutes was wrong. So it's like, it's easy to lie. It's really, like all the different random things that, we've brought up here. It's like, well, I understand, I'm putting you in an odd positions of, it's like, well, this might be controversial. This might be a problem or whatever. It's like, oh no, you've never interacted with me, so you don't know, what's going to happen. And I don't know either, because that's just how I like to fly, kind of like by the seat of my pants, where, it's like, well, let's just see what happens, and it's like, did you do a thing with the convertible? No, burn it to the ground. I never talked to him,
No, I mean, I appreciate you being able to just talk about whatever. I think that's cool.
Well, it's really, and this is, I kind of thought that that's what it would be, because I've heard you talk, or seen, well, heard and seen you talk to others, and you're just this very easy to talk to sort of guy, in the nicest way possible, by the way. That I say that, because I appreciate don't know. Somebody might think that that's bad for some reason. I don't know. but it's where, I've had interactions with all sorts of people over the time, of course, and as you have that, and it's very much of like, well, you can't, like, it's like, I'm trying to, it's like, well, I bet I can find the thing that will irritate me eventually if I dig hard enough, but it's hard when you got such a nice kind of person that you're dealing with, where they're like, no, I understand that position. Let's, we'll shelve that because I don't know enough about that right now. And it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me on a skeptical level, where I want to know, it's like, well, if I brought you in to talk about one particular thing, that'd be different. Like, I saw, we both had glanced at that how to groom your your young Christian bride or whatever.
No.
Like, if we wanted to talk specifically about that, then we would have read the whole thing and then come in here to address every single point or whatever. But just bring it up as like, hey, what about that? Yeah, that's a thing. I'll probably make a video about it later, but right now, I don't know. What can you say about it? It's wrong. It's stupid. I don't know what else. So it's not going to be as fleshed out. And of course, I don't think anyone's expecting it to be. But
no.
But I think they'll be entertained. If they didn't know you already, they'll know you now, and that hopefully will get you a couple of subs, or maybe it won't. I don't know what will happen. I don't know anything about. I don't know how YouTube works. That's my problem.
It's constantly changing. It's hard to figure out. It gets more and more complicated too, I think. But I mean, yeah, definitely. If somebody's not subscribed to my channel, you should at least check it out.
Yeah. No, they have to sub. I told them to.
Yeah, you're literally required to.
You are required. The lobsters will attack you if you don't.
Yeah. But I feel like I don't know. It's really hard to grow your channel once you hit a certain point. I don't feel like my videos get recommended a lot. I know used to it seemed easier, which I know used to. I started out on YouTube making like Nerf action videos, and those would get like thousands of views. It was like so easy to get views.
Like modifying Nerf guns and stuff like that, or
no, just like me and my friends, we were kids. We would run around with Nerf guns and make up these stories, and then I would add lasers or whatever to the video in After Effects, and then put it on YouTube. And they did.
Well, maybe you could combo that somehow with atheism, like the laser would shoot out like the Bible is wrong or something.
Yeah.
It'd shoot out logic, be like, oh.
Yeah, or a lightsaber.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, people do that. Yeah.
I'm editing this in real time.
Oh man, that's incredible effects, man. I can't do that. Man, this guy's he's toned me into oblivion. But I mean, like, you could. It's interesting, like with the Force and Star Wars, that is a topic that you can actually treat somewhat seriously to a degree, because it started as this mythical thing. Then it got demythicized in the prequels. Then they kind of just ignored it in the sequels, I guess. It's like, whatever. It does whatever you need it to do, I guess.
Sequels? So Star Wars sequels? I don't know what you're talking about.
The way they don't exist. The Force Awakens and and all that.
What?
And you're like, no.
Is this like a new movie?
Yeah. Are you only the original 3 exist and all the other ones don't exist?
Only the prequels.
only the prequels exist. Nothing else exists.
The best 3, episode 1, 2, and 3.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah. People are gonna fight you about that. There you go.
People can't fight me about it. Look, Jar Jar was a useful character. C-3PO was a useless character, and so was Chewbacca.
Did you like the? I thought it would have been a much more interesting story if Darth Jar Jar had actually been a thing. And I think that there was hints at it. I think it would have. I think it was going to be, but like Lucas panicked. And
I think there may be some credibility to that, but I don't know. Probably not. I'm not really on board with the Darth Jar Jar theory. It seems like it was possible, but I mean, really, Palpatine was the mastermind behind all of it, and that just perfectly, plays into the original trilogy. Like, I don't know, you would have had to have Jar Jar be the mastermind, and then Palpatine just takes over, and then he's the Emperor. And what happened to Jar Jar? I don't know. It seems like the story fit perfectly. Without there being somebody like Palpatine was the mastermind above Darth Maul, and then Dooku and everything. I don't think you really needed somebody above Palpatine. So I don't.
Well, he was the Phantom in the Phantom Menace,
right? Yeah, he was the Phantom Menace.
It was Jar Jar the whole time. Yeah, because he led them down the path of destruction. You know, if they hadn't listened to him, it would have been fine. They would have been fine.
Well, I don't know.
Anyways, but the Force. I was going to go down a different track with the Force. So how it's like you have this metaphysical, supernatural thing, but then it became, well, it's just things in your body. So I'm like, well,
yeah, the midichlorians.
Yeah, midichlorians, and well, now if that's the case, then you could. Why can't you harvest the midichlorians and make anybody into a super mega Force user? And
well, that's what they ended up trying to do.
Yeah, like
later, in some of the video games and comics.
Yeah, no, I would have been. It's like, well, you know, and then of course you have the cloning facility. So I'm like, well, there you go. Finally, I'm justified because way back when, I was trying to get into a Star Wars RPG, and I'm like, I want to be Darth Yoda, and they're like, no. And I'm like, no, listen. It's not actually Yoda. It's a clone of Yoda, and they gave him, you know, and he just went to the dark side instead of the light. Why not? Darth Yoda, it'd be cool. No, and I'm fine. I'm not gonna play that. Nah. So I have a headcanon way of justifying this. So that's the whole reason you came on my channel, so I could justify that to everybody. Anyway, I thought that there might be some society sort of reflection of how, well, religion was all made up, but now it's actually, it always was grounded in reality. We just didn't know it until, you know, in the past we knew it was grounded in reality, but then over time it became something legendary. Is that a commentary on what Lucas really thinks religion is, or is it just a story and I'm looking too deep into it?
I don't think that's crazy. I think there's a lot of layers to the Star Wars story, especially with the prequels, that George Lucas was intentionally putting there. There's a lot of political commentary in the prequels. I mean, some of my favorite part of the prequels is the politics that are going on. I know a lot of people don't like those, the politics in the prequels, but I think it's really interesting. I mean, you have this guy who's playing both sides of the war just to work his way up on one side, and then I think it's brilliant. It's very complex.
Yeah, well, kind of my point on that, as silly as it might seem to anyone else besides us, is that you can take anything works of that we know are not true, and you can read into them all of these ideas, and those can be really useful ideas. But at the end of the day, we're both going to admit that it didn't happen. It's not true, and I think that if religion could do that, it might be better than it currently is. You know, that if they could say, yeah, these are stories, but they're made up, and we know they're made up, but we can still gain something from them, because you can still, you know, it's just like knowing the story is not true doesn't change it. You can still get all these ideas from the Bible or whatever, even if you don't, if you think it's all made up, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I think stories are really extremely important to help us decide who we want to be, you know, because it kind of gives you a sandbox, right, to look in and see, you know, why do I admire this character, or why do I not like this character? You know, what is it that this character does that kind of draws me in and you know, makes me want to be that kind of person? Like Spider-Man, I think, is a great example. You know, like I grew up watching the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and there was something about Spider-Man that just really appealed to me. And I, you know, literally I've always kind of subconsciously and consciously kind of strive to be like Spider-Man, you know, like it doesn't, he doesn't care what he gives up. He doesn't care if he loses everything. All that matters to him is that he does the right thing, you know, that he's responsible with his power, you know, that he makes the right choice. There's a lot there, you know, but I've always wanted to be like that because there was something attractive about that. Even though he didn't get the girl or whatever at the end of the day, there's something that made me attracted to that. And I know that, that's kind of what other people are going to be attracted to, what other people are going to admire,
It's a character archetype.
Yeah.
It's like and that's what Jesus was essentially and still is presented as, this archetype. And, this is the way to be, whether or not, there's all, it's nuanced, so it's difficult, but
it is.
I look at Jesus, he's just like, you can look at him like this hippie that just was, an end time prophet, or whatever. Or you say, well, he said some things that were, he said things that were against the time that he was in. So he was revolutionary in that sense. And people say, well, he was a good person. It's like, well, was he though? I mean, he cursed the fig tree. What was that about? Threw those tables around.
I don't get the big objection with the fig tree thing.
Well, because it wasn't in season.
So what? The guy got upset at the fig tree.
Well, because he was hungry. He's like, he knew that it wasn't in season. He's God. He could have just been like,
you've never cursed something out because you were hungry?
Yeah, but I'm not God. Unless I am, and I don't know. That would explain everything.
But back to your point, though, I do think, with a few things, there's a few things I would nitpick about Jesus, but for the most part, he is a good model he's acceptable. I'll say he's a good model for people to try to be like, or at least be Christ-like. That's total. Whether the Christianity is true or not, and I don't think that it is. It doesn't matter. If people want to strive to be Christ-like, that's a good thing. I strive to be Spider-Man-like. It doesn't matter that he doesn't exist.
Exactly.
That's not the important part of the story at the end of the day.
Right. It's the striving towards whatever this good is, and we have to pin it down somewhere, and we arbitrarily decide. Or maybe it's arbitrarily decided for us because their genes and free will is an illusion and all that. But regardless, we pick our mold and we try to navigate through it. And here we are on YouTube, non-believers trying to basically, as I see it, and maybe you have a different view, but I see it as this is. For me, it's making up what I used to do Christian videos. So I have to make up for that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, so I did that for at least a year as Infinite Hope. That channel doesn't exist though, but every now and then I'll talk to my past self and I'll review a video I did that I still have of it, and I'll be like, "Here's where I was wrong," also part of it is to the thing that deconverted me was logic. So that's why I'm into that. And that's why I present that. So it's like, well, there's many reasons to be out there and to say, hey, look, this is untrue, or maybe you should question things. And so I think that sometimes believers will wonder our motives. And even though you say, I have good intentions or have good motives, like, it's so easy for them sometimes to, bog us down with all these motives that they think that we're about. It's like you just want to sin. No, I don't believe in sin. If I wanted to sin, I'd be a believer, because then I'd be forgiven. And I mean, I would have to believe that sin is a thing for me to want to do it. You don't, and how do you or I don't know. There's something for their eat whatever I just said, because I don't know.
I agree that sin's not necessarily. I don't believe that it's a real thing because it's an offense against a deity, right? But usually, I just kind of translate that when Christians accuse me of that, because when they say sin, they're more referring to doing bad things, do selfish things, or hurtful things, because that could be a motivation potentially, right, for somebody to leave Christianity. It wouldn't make much sense, but they didn't like the rules, and so they left for so that they could do whatever they wanted to. It's somewhat of a reasonable suspicion, maybe, but yeah, that's not why I left, and not why anybody I know left Christianity.
Yeah, I've never encountered that. I'm sure somebody somewhere, has had
probably. I mean, there's probably some
met them
moron that left because they just wanted to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, but it's like, well, and then you get into that whole doesn't matter why you joined or left X religion. Like, if you did it because pure emotion is, if it happened to be true, does it matter? It's like, I think it does. Because you can guess at a correct answer, but guessing isn't a good way to know that you'll get the correct answer. So it's not. It's like, it's great, you got the right answer, but let's examine how you got there. And I think sometimes people maybe have a problem with understanding why it's so important to examine how you got to that conclusion.
Yeah.
You find that do you find what's, because you said you don't really argue against God or whatever per se, but so what is it? Do you argue for anything, or is it more just kind of questioning?
Yeah, for me, I do want people to question why they believe what they believe, but not even so much, definitely not at all like the God belief, whether you believe in a deity or not. Like, I don't actively want people to become atheists. Like, I don't give a crap if you're an atheist or not. But for me, it's more the what I want people to question is their beliefs that harm other people. Like, if you're bigoted, if you're some sort of an elitist, like, and those sort of things tend to exist within a lot of Christianities. There are definitely some Christian beliefs that are great, maybe even net positives to society, but there are a lot of Christians more where I grew up that are very harmful, and those are the people that I want to question why they believe what they believe. Why do they believe that homosexuality is wrong, or if it is even founded in Christianity, then please question Christianity, if that's what's causing you to believe that. For me, my motivation isn't what people believe. It's just, if people believe things that are harmful, those are what I want to fight against,
Yeah. I think that's noble.
Yeah, I don't even care if people are Christians necessarily. I know some Christians that are great people, and I think maybe even part of why they're great people is their Christian beliefs, but their Christian beliefs aren't harmful. And I don't mind that, but a lot of people around here, and I think they're bigoted first and then Christians second. I think a lot of people aren't even homophobic because of Christianity. I think a lot of people, I would suspect that even more people are bigoted first, and then they use Christianity to justify their bigoted beliefs.
They would use whatever was at their disposal to justify it. I tend to think that as well. I don't have any study or anything that can prove it. It's just, suspicion.
No. It's just growing up in it. I think that most people hate homosexuality because that's just kind of the traditional mindset. It's not because there's a verse in Leviticus that says they should be stoned.
Right. Which it actually didn't say that originally. And they don't even know the history of it. That's so interesting. It's like, because they're not really, like you said, it's probably that they're not. We can't just say what they are doing because we don't know their mind, but it's like they're using that as a good excuse, and if they didn't have that excuse, then what would be their excuse? They'd have some other excuse, I'm sure, but it wouldn't
because
it wouldn't be that. At least we get rid of that one.
And I've seen people locally leave Christianity and still be homophobic. They don't really have a good way to justify it. They'll say that it's not natural. It's like, well, it is.
I mean,
but they don't have a defense anymore.
I mean, what does that even mean? I don't know, but
and I think that goes to show that
Yeah, if you don't want to do it, don't you do it. You do you.
Right, nobody's forcing you to be.
Like, what are you? Like, are you afraid that if you try it, you will like it? I don't know. What's the deal? Like, why does it matter?
I think another good hint, another clue that shows that the bigotry comes before the religion is, I also know a lot of people around here who don't believe in interracial relationships. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a very strong tradition.
I think a
around
lot of
here.
that wasn't present in the Pentecostal church I went to, although I was aware that it had been in other churches somehow. I don't know why, but like it seemed like the Pentecostals were more leaning towards the conservative or fundamental views, but the pastor had married an Oriental during the war, Vietnam. So obviously that whole church wasn't going to be against mixed marriage, and so I think that's what can change it is when you have people in the congregation or especially leaders that say no, and I remember hearing about the church I'd gone to for a long time as a youth, that one of the guys I really respected, he like had the Bible memorized. It was amazing. And he had this whole big like debate with the like he almost split the congregation because they were going to have a woman pastor, and he was like, no, it says you can't do that. It says in the Bible you can't do that, and he's right. But they didn't care. They were like, yeah, we're going to do it anyways. It doesn't matter. And so they saw that, you have to change or you die as you die out. Religion has to change with society or die. And I've been to churches that are dead and dying. This one that had nothing but everybody but me and was like 80 some odd, plus, and the music was dull and the thing was lifeless as could be. And there's like, 5 people there. And they didn't want to change. They didn't want to change how the music was or how the service was done. They didn't want to change anything at all. And I was like, how do we get new members? And I was just like, different music? No, we're not gonna do that. Okay. Strings are evil. You can't use stringed instruments. What? Okay.
Really?
Yeah. They were even they were like, it has to be voice only. You can't have any instruments at all.
That's what the Church of Christ believes.
Yeah, really. I didn't know that as well.
Oh yeah, that's
I thought there was. See, I thought the Church of Christ I went to was like a subsection of it because of their because I think it was because they also, it wasn't enough that you got baptized in a certain way. You also had to understand that you had to be baptized in that certain way.
Well, yeah.
Or it didn't count. Like
that's how the Church of Christ is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was like, wait a minute. So even if you got baptized in the way that you said, if you didn't know that you were supposed to be baptized in that way, then it doesn't count. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. No, that's part of the Church of Christ doctrine. That's what they all believe. Yeah. You have to understand. That's why like you can get baptized whenever you want to, but they highly discourage it. Like if you're 6, 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
They don't tell you a set age, but they want you to be old enough to understand. And so usually that's around 12, 13, 14, which I was 12 when I got baptized.
But then
a lot of times they end up getting rebaptized. Like they don't believe that a second baptism does anything, but a lot of people did it when they got older just to be safe.
Yeah.
To make sure like, maybe I thought I understood, but I didn't really.
That was kind of my perception is like, you're going to ask me to get baptized again. That's what you want me to do because otherwise I'm not, it's like, and I'm like, I've already been baptized a couple times. I'm good to go. I'm pretty sure one of them stuck,
Yeah.
So, I just wasn't doing it again because the Pentecostals had a thing, you had to be baptized. And I thought, or that maybe it wasn't that, but it seemed like it was like, okay, it was really important to them, and like it's like I felt like I had to prove that I don't know. It's just like I don't know why it got in my head that I had to or whatever for that church, but I did, and it's like, okay, well, I just got baptized just in the other church I was in. That's good enough, and I did it when I was a kid, so come on, that's got to be enough by now. I'm not going to do it a third time. And I think somebody in chat had said, what is, what does God need with you being doused in water? How they put it. But yeah, it's a good question. It's like, well, because it's in there. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, even Jesus was baptized.
Yeah. So it's part of the tradition. It's part of the ritual of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, at any rate, I think we need to wrap up because I've kept you quite some time. I'd love to keep going at different random things, but I'm sure.
I mean, I don't mind, but I know you're probably tired of talking to me. So.
No, not at all. No way. No, not even a little. But I tend to only do these things for. I've found that an hour's pretty good, and then my brain starts to melt.
I usually go for 2 hours when I do a live stream.
Oh, okay. But, well, yeah, I guess my brain, maybe my
brain.
No,
if you're ready to go.
No. I mean, I can't find the dang thing that I just said that somebody said. Oh well, whatever. It's in there somewhere. Screw it. No.
I have not been looking at the chat.
Yeah, I don't care. They're doing their own thing. That's normal.
I think they're all gone.
They're all doing whatever. I don't know. Maybe that guy
says there's 6 people watching.
Yeah.
If you're watching, say something in the chat freaking now.
Yeah, they jumped from 3 to 6. I don't know that it knows who's watching you. No, they're not going to do that. I've told they'll not even listen to me when I tell them to post on YouTube after the stream because like the chat doesn't matter.
Hey, do you hear me? If you're watching this video right now, I want you to say something in that little chat box right there. Okay. I want to see that. I want to see your name pop up in that little chat box.
Okay. Do it. Hurry up. That's great. I should have you do the voiceover for like my intro or something.
We got people chatting now.
Yeah, a little. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you're looking at the different chat. I don't know what you're looking at.
On your YouTube.
Oh, okay.
There's Mugger Fugger. There's Rudolph Bonda Fongerer.
That's just weird. Then
Main Gun 07 and Compelled Unbeliever, who's one of my favorite YouTube channels. Shout out to Compelled Unbeliever. Go subscribe to that. Cool guy.
Yeah, he was cool. We did a thing. That was great. Yeah. Some of these weren't showing up because I was looking at StreamYard, and some of these are.
Nothing shows up on StreamYard, does it?
Sometimes it does. I mean, I didn't notice that. I didn't know that things didn't show up until it's on Top Chat. Maybe that's it. It should be on live.
Yeah, I don't even know what the difference is because usually Top Chat shows the same stuff.
Oh, okay. I'm stupid. That's why it's not working. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, I'll look at it over here.
Mugger Fugger said that they watch on 2 screens, so it counts as 2. Really?
Double the people watching.
Yeah, Mugger Fugger.
Well, whatever. Look, whatever gets us famous. We don't care anymore. Okay, that's a tangent. I'll go on that tangent a little bit. Then I'll give up because my brain's gonna melt any moment now. We were talking about ethical systems, and somebody had said, I said, for example, like, I can throw a rock over a cliff. It doesn't matter. It's not. It's a morally neutral action, but throwing a rat over a cliff, that would not be a morally neutral action because I'm causing a death that I didn't need to. And the person said, well, what if I give you $10? I'm like, I don't know. Now we're talking about how much is the value of the rat's life to me? Like, and I started thinking, it's like, I don't know.
That would be the key. So what is it worth to you? Like you might take
like,
$100, but that doesn't mean that like objectively its life is
right.
worth it.
Yeah, it's like you could maybe find like a bell curve of what people would take for a rat. And they're like, well, is it and then you're like, well, is it a vermin? Is it a pet? If it's somebody's pet, that changes things, or whatever. And I'm like, no, look, $1 million, okay? Just let's leave it there. Leave me alone. It's like,
yeah.
But
I don't know. I don't ever set like mouse traps or anything like that. I never have. But I do have a cat, and so I do wonder about that because I know she'll catch them. So am I responsible? Am I guilty? Like, because I know that that's what she does, but she's the one doing it.
Well, if you could communicate that you didn't want that, and then I think it would be, because it's like if you have a kid, supposedly to some extent the parents, at least, maybe it shouldn't be this way, but they're kind of held responsible for what the kid does because they did bad parenting. It's like, well, but nature is greater than nurture, and that's been shown, but there's still something to nurture. So hypothetically they could have taught their kid, to, whenever you see a rat, stomp on it until it's dead. And you'd be like, well, that's, you don't need to. I mean, look, there's a different way you could go about this. You could just catch it, release it. So no, stomp. Like, okay. And maybe no one cares because it's a rat. But if it was dogs or cats, then people would stop. They'd really care about that because it's different. Because you're talking about, those are pets of somebody, and even if they're not, people tend to like dogs and cats. And so, now you've got this little terror. 10-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever, running around stomping cats and dogs to death, and you're like, that parent's a terrible parent. What's wrong with them? Like, I taught them to do it. But it's not my fault. It's their fault for doing it. No, I think it's your fault. You told them to do it. But if they just the kid did it and they told them not to do it, then it's not their fault. So
sure.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
There you go. So unless you're training your cat to go out of its way to kill people, then I don't think you're responsible. Yeah, that's how that metaphor works. Whatever.
Yeah. I don't know if she could kill a person, but
well, you just haven't trained her right.
Yeah.
There's this whole website, if I remember, how did you tell if your cat's trying to kill you or whatever?
Or my cat's not trying to kill me. She would probably kill somebody else, but no, if I had to choose one person to try to survive the apocalypse with, it would be my cat. She is pretty badass.
All right, it wasn't a video, it was a book. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. Whatever, there it is. It's how to tell. It is literally called "How to Tell If Your Cat's Trying to Kill You."
No,
Volume 2.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of people, I kind of view cats in that way. My cat's pretty different from a lot of people's cats. I don't know. She knows her name, and she's extreme. She acts like a dog. Like she's like protective and stuff of me. Like even like my wife, if she comes up and like touches my shoulder, if my cat's like, if she's laying there in front of me, she'll like swat at my wife. She's very protective. She's very, very cool cat. But,
okay. Yeah. Well, YouTube and cats. That's a good place as any to end this before I start to dissolve into insanity, which I'm probably already doing. But hey, I'm happy to be on your channel with a particular topic that you want to grill me on or whatever.
Yeah, I might do that.
And you probably forget. That's fine. Yeah, that's okay. I don't care.
No, I haven't had too many other people on my channel. I've had a few people I know personally on to like that I actually physically know. Like, but yeah, I haven't done too many like collaborations or anything.
Yeah,
I haven't done any, but
I'm always up for that sort of thing. Although I get kind of lazy and weird sometimes, like I'll forget or I'll sleep in or something stupid will happen. And not that I try to, because I try not to, but it's just like it happens to me, and I'm like, okay, well that sucks. I wanted to have this one guy that's a really good friend of mine tell about he recently deconverted. And I'm like, I want to have him talk, but it's just like, when are you here? Like, well, I'm going to be here at this time. I'm like, all right. And then I'll like wake up and it'll be past the time. And I'll be like, oh, well, they suck. And then I'll put it off for another week and I'll be like, I'll try again. And then, then some video game will suck me into it and I'll forget about reality or whatever.
Yeah, I try to stay away from video games. I can get caught up.
It's terrible. It's terrible, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me about all sorts of random things. And
thanks. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I don't get canceled for anything we talked about.
No, I'm gonna. All the terrible, horrible things you said. Definitely gonna get. If anyone, there's nothing you said. Nothing that you said.
Well, there were a few parts, so I was like wiping sweat from my brow. I was like,
and I tried, man. I tried, but there was nothing that you said that anyone could use against you.
Yeah.
And if anyone finds it and uses it against you, I will send the lobsters after them, so they will know what it is to feel the pinch of the lobster.
Okay.
Don't think I don't have an army of lobsters at my disposal that are trained to kill.
I didn't know you did.
Well, now you do.
I don't know. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what to do. I just want to get out of here.
Just send some of those lobsters to subscribe.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like 10 subscribers away from 666.
Ooh,
so
I'd
really like to hit that arbitrary number.
Yeah, and that should be like, I don't know what you'll do, but you're like,
I don't know. I'll start an OnlyFans account.
Oh man, yeah, it's just well, so bad OnlyFans. No, he's like, he disappeared. What happened? I don't know. I think he disconnected. I'm sure he didn't just quit. All right. Well, thanks, Dallas Wade. It's really fun to talk to you, and you're great.
Yeah.
Easy to talk to guy, and I couldn't squeeze you to be controversial, which is probably better for you than me. You were like, oh, don't be controversial on Twitter. So that's why I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the thing you told me not to do. I'll show him to ever talk to me again. Because I'm evil and I don't have morals. Anyways, I don't know. I'm just weird and wacky. I don't, half of what I'm saying is not, I don't know anymore. See, this is where I hit the button. I'm going to hit the button. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Say something wise. Brilliant. He said bye. That's a brilliant thing. Hitting the button. Hit the button. Okay.